Click is an Indian brand of pen, as in from India, and you will find that they tend to specialize in the lower end pens. If you've been over to like Fountain Pen Revolution's website, they tend to specialize in Indian made pens, and they carry a lot of Click pens, but they don't carry their upper end stuff. And quite honestly, looking at their website, the Click Pens website, they don't tend to seem to have an awful lot of upper ends, and this seems to be their new upper end offering. This is called the Aristocrat Renaissance line of fountain pens, and it actually came in 3 base models, plus they extended it to include several others. You have Renaissance, that time period. Well, you know, they named their pens after Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael and Michelangelo, so they've got each of those in their respective models, and I'll put a picture up of what those look like here. And they also expanded a little bit to include pink and 3 different variation of blue. This particular pen, I decided to get the Aristocrat Renaissance fountain pen in a broad nib and Raphael. So I'm thinking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially because this one comes in red. So you've got the box that it comes in, and you've got this cardboard sleeve. I bought this from Federalist Pens. FederalistPensOnline.com. Talked to Frank there. I've met Frank a bunch of times, know Frank, and decided I'm going to purchase from him yet again. Matter of fact, I'll be seeing Frank here probably about the time you're seeing this, perhaps at the DC Pen Show. So, Click handcrafted pens made out of India. So, open up the box, and here's what you've got. Here's their logo and their little card. Million smiles and counting. Handcrafted pens since 1978. So you've got that, and then you've got, it's a 3-in-1 filling mechanism. Well, if you count that in fact it comes with a converter, comes with cartridges, and supposedly you can eyedropper this particular pen, okay, fine. Let's call it 3 different mechanisms for filling. And you've got some instructions. Actually, that's the, the front side of the card for the instructions. You open it up and it comes like this. Yes, there was a converter that was sitting in here. That converter is now inside this pen. I thought that this was the best looking out of the 3 for the major models that were named after artistes. I really enjoyed, the Da Vinci and the Michelangelo as well, where they're more of an orange and a white. But I think that the Raphael was probably the best looking one. So I decided to go that route. Now, looking at it, it looked to be very familiar to me. I don't know about you, but this line of pens seems to be very familiar looking. Well, how about like a Conklin Durograph? Here's a Conklin Durograph in Purple Knights, and I went ahead and pulled those out so I can look at them side by side for a comparison. So you look here, as far as size, they're fairly close. And the Click is just a little bit longer, got just a little more girth, but you still have the flat top, essentially, for the finial. The clip looks very similar. You got cap bands that are almost similar. You got the double cap band on this one, on the Click. Whereas you've got the single cap band there on that Conklin. You got the same kind or a similar style barrel, and then you've got a black tip here at the end of that barrel that tapers down just a little bit at the end. You just don't have that ring here at the tail. But it kind of reminded me some of that Conklin Durograph. There are a couple things about this particular pen. All right, yeah, you can look at it. You can see where it's got the Click logo right there. Shows up very nicely on that clip. Well, that clip is almost identical. I mean, you got a nice flat. I mean, it looks good. It's a classy looking pen. I love the look of that red. That red is just, nice and bright and sparkly. That silver trim does fairly well for it. It's a nice long cap. So you open it up. It's about a 1.5 twist to get that open. And you look here, and we've got the Click nib right there. Actually, that's a pretty good look at it, so I don't think I'm going to have to throw up any more close-ups where it says India B click. All right. So here you've got that section that kind of, it doesn't really taper down very much, but it flares out just a little bit to where that nib sits in. Here is where it gets interesting. You want to take this off. One, twist, 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 twist. Keep twisting, keep twisting, keep twisting. Finally, it comes off. So that's a good many twists. And you can see there's a good many threads here as well. I'm assuming that's because they intended for you to be able to eyedropper this thing, that they have so much thread that is there. And that is the converter that comes with it. I decided I wanted to pair this with a nice red ink. So what I did was, I got my little ink sample card right here on the side. I went ahead and paired that up with a Noodler's Voltaire Candide Vermilion. That's what my ink swatch looks like on that. So, and that's a long turn. It takes a while to do that. But I do like the size of the pen. I mean, it's almost oversized, not quite. It's definitely on the larger side. And that fits well. I mean, I knew looking at it that I could deal with the size of it when I first saw it, and it kind of reminded me of the Conklin. So that's one of the reasons I went ahead and ordered it. And quite honestly, these were about 50 bucks. Right around in that price range. And I'll pop up the little price here on the screen and give you the exact figure of what I paid for it. You know, I knew that I was going to go ahead and probably enjoy how it fit and hopefully how it wrote. Generally, I'm not a big fan of Asian nibs. I have not been a fan of a lot of the Indian-made nibs that I've had, but I figured I'd give it a chance. You go to post it, that's a really long throw. It does backweight that pen somewhat, so you probably don't want to keep that posted. But quite honestly, I don't have to, because that actually fits nicely in my hand. So, I'll go ahead and I'll give you some statistics about this particular pen. I will go ahead and give you a writing sample. I'll give you my opinion on it. There's a few things that I know that I can pass along to you about it when I go to write with it. So there you go. Click. Couple of reasons why I went ahead and ordered this particular pen in a broad nib. Number one, because I'm trying to get a little more variety in my collection. I've been getting medium nibs for pretty much everything, avoiding fine nibs if at all possible. And I decided, well, you know, I've got a few broad nibs and they write great. Some of them write extremely broad. I've got one that I paid a good amount of money for, and it's way too broad for the broad nib, and it's like a paintbrush. I've got others that write on the medium side of broad. This is one of those that is on the medium side of broad. Having experienced some pens from India, I decided that I better go with the broad nib, because maybe I get like a medium out of it. And you know, that's exactly what I got. So the broad to me in this particular pen by Click is actually more of a medium. And I'll show you how that is right now. So here we go. Here's a pad that I've got. I use an awful lot for pen pal writing. But this is the Click. It is the Aristocrat Renaissance. And this particular one, this is the Raphael model. I got the broad nib for it. It is a steel nib. And you know what? It actually is fairly smooth. It's not bad. I mean, and it's good and reliable. I've been using this, actually this particular pad even, and this pen to write letters, and I've gone page after page and have absolutely no problems with this particular pen so far. So let's go ahead and do just a little bit of writing. Oh, by the way, yeah, again, let me tell you that the ink is this Noodler's Voltaire. And it's the Candide Vermilion. Now, this pad actually tends to write just a little bit on the dry side anyway, but you do have a good wet line with it. It is definitely not the smoothest nib I've ever had, and it's definitely not rough whatsoever. Right out of the box, it actually wrote a pretty good, very acceptable nib that I personally would never even think about doing any nib smoothing or any adjustment to. It wrote perfect as far as I was concerned for what it was right out of the box. I actually had low expectations for this particular pen, knowing what some of the click pens and previous pens I've procured that came out of India were like, but this particular one actually did fairly well, and I was pleasantly surprised. I like good surprises. I don't like bad surprises. So let's see what we can do. It's a medium, on the medium side here, definitely. You can get line variation out of it, and you can see where it's a little bit wet there. And you can get a good thicker line out of it. So that's definitely more of a broad. It's steel. I don't expect a whole lot of spring to it. There is just a little bit out of it if you want a line variation. It's not a flex nib. I didn't expect it to be. And I'm not actually doing it hard in order to get these lines. Just a little bit of pressure is what I did here. So every stroke that I've taken with this pen since I've been using it, because as soon as I get it, I'm the kind I want to ink up my toys. So anyway, thanks to Federalist Pens. Well, actually, he should be thanking me because I gave him my money in order to get this pen, not the other way around. But, Frank's always treated me well, so I do recommend you go check out his website over at Federalist Pens, and I'll be saying hey to Frank and letting him know that this video will be up on YouTube. But the click.